got to figure out if something is solving a problem that your company has first and foremost versus just trying to chase something that looks really cool.
Hello, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Mortgage Innovator podcast, where we deliver fresh and hopefully entertaining insights on all things mortgage and the innovation propelling our industry forward. My name is Dave Zitting with Avenue Technologies, makers of the IntraLend platform. And every Tuesday, you can find our rotating group of co-hosts, or what the producers have dubbed the Innovative Five, who all share their unique connection to the industry. This week, we have joining us Margaret with Caliber Home Loans.
Hi, Dave.
Hello, Margaret. And Dan with Finance of America Mortgage.
Hey, Dave. Happy to be here.
Good to see you, my man. And a special shout out to our sponsor, Qualia. Qualia is the category-creating digital closing platform used by thousands of lenders across the country to seamlessly work with their title and escrow partners. By working better together, Qualia is powering lenders to deliver a differentiated closing experience for their clients. Through real-time communications, closing status updates, and workflow management, Qualia brings lenders together with home buyers and sellers, title and escrow agents, and real estate agents for a secure and seamless closing experience. Qualia is proud to have been awarded the Housing Wire Tech 100 Award for real estate, as well as CB Insights FinTech 250 Award. Discover how you can work more efficiently with your title and escrow partners at qualia.com/innovators. That's QUALIA.com/innovators. Okay, so we're going to be exploring a really interesting topic today. And I think it opens up some other opportunities for us. The concept here is what we are dubbing a MVP tech stack. And as an organization, what technology stack do I need? What technology systems do I need? Be it point of sale technologies, marketing technologies, mobile technologies, these sort of business driver, business development sort of tools and functions that are going to help me be a successful participant down the road. When I say down the road, I'm thinking 1, 2, 3 years down the road. And I think all of us in the industry can agree that 1, 2, 3 years down the road, things have got to look a lot different. There's got to be some things changing on the interest rate front. We would think, with all the money being poured into the economy, and everybody's got their opinion on whatever inflation's going to do, but at some point in time, we're going to have a little bit higher interest rate. I would bet on that. And we start looking at that, and a whole bunch of things start becoming complex. We have less refinances or no refinances, unless they're cash outs and those sorts of things, renovation loans and whatnot. We potentially have less home purchase transactions as well. With we're not seeing a big solve for the inventory issues, and of course we got a lot of homeowners with low interest rates. So a little bit different, less motivation to move from one property to another, or maybe they'll keep a property as a rental. Lots of different things could go on. So at the end of the day, I've got to look down the road as an organization, and I also have to look at new competition coming into the marketplace. There's some really incredible mortgage companies out there that are making it so simple for the consumer through a DIY process to jump into their platforms on their time, turf, and terms. We've talked about that quite a bit. To go through this process, be the entry point for the market, and supply them just a super comfortable, elegant, relevant experience. We see blockchain sort of technologies coming into the market as well. Lots of things out there. So I'm busy today. I've got a lot going on. I've got this super full pipeline. Too busy to really kind of look out ahead. That's what today is about. Today is about having a discussion about 1, 2, 3 years down the road. I want to be a participant. I need to stay relevant. I've got to be competitive. What are some of the technologies that we need to be looking at today to make sure that we can keep up and stay ahead and compete in the future? So let's throw that out there. And Margaret, let's start with you. Any thoughts out there as you've been seeing the market changing so fast with your clients as well, and so many different things going on?
Yeah, well, Dave, there's a few things that really you triggered for me. First of all, I think when you said we have to look out ahead, we have to make time to make this a priority. We have to make time to figure out what is the MVP tech stack, what are we going to need? So that's the first thing. We're not going to have the time if we don't make it. So I think that's really, really important for us all to understand. Secondly, when I think about this topic, I think about it from two perspectives. I think about it from an enterprise perspective, and then I think about it, so if I own a company, how do I need to think about it? And then as a individual contributor, a mortgage loan officer, how do I think about this topic? So I would say the things that are very important that have to be part of the MVP tech stack from an enterprise perspective is technology that absolutely creates efficiency, and I view that through automation. So for example, what I see my customers, the successful ones, their technologies are automated. They can take advantage of a really streamlined process, in terms of how are they actually getting the loans to the investors for purchase, and using automation technologies. The other thing that I think is really, really important is it integrated? And I'll just use Investor Connect as an example, that it really allows, we always say in this business, we want to push the buttons, get everything through. And that's an example of a technology that kind of allows that to happen. So from an enterprise level, I think integration and automation has to be part of that MVP tech stack.
I agree, and I like what you're looking at there, both the back end and the front end, and the message there is if you can get the back end working quicker, more seamless, more productive, more efficient, saving dollars, then you're going to have more dollars to be able to put out front for marketing, client creation, those sorts of things. Dan?
Yeah, so I agree with everything Margaret outlined. I like to start with, when I'm looking at tech stacks, I like to start with the CRM, and make sure that, one, you know who your customers are, not just the customers that you've been able to do business with, but as much data as you can accumulate for those prospects as well. Because, just because you couldn't service them today doesn't mean there's not another opportunity in the future. So making sure that your CRM is super robust from a data standpoint, and you can accumulate as much data as possible within that CRM so that you can really make sure that you can nurture those prospects, even if you can't service them right now, for a potential future opportunity. Make sure that you can communicate to your in-process customers in an automated way. Take that, that shouldn't be something that sales really has to do on a day-to-day basis. Automation should be able to do that day-to-day, month-to-month, annual communications in an automated fashion, and then just really bubble up those opportunities for the sales advisor to really reach out to those customers when that time may be right. And then, just retention and loyalty is just so important. I mean, you look at how market conditions are going to change in the next 6 to 12 months. Purchase market's going to continue to accelerate, I think. Refis are going to start to dry up. Maybe there's some equity and cash out opportunities still lingering around. But just looking at how much it costs to accumulate a new customer versus just retain what's already in your portfolio. So making sure that your CRM is really robust enough to surface those opportunities, not only potential refinance, but also bubbling up those purchase opportunities as well. The other thing that, a lot of focus on is, we have to understand customers' expectations has changed. So making sure that your platform really has a mobile first modern experience that your customers really are desiring these days. Nobody wants to meet with you and fill out carbon paper anymore. So, making sure that your platform really is starting to move towards, and I don't really like the word point of sale. I think it's kind of gotten out of hand in our industry. Nobody's really sure what the heck it means anymore. But I would call it more of a customer experience. Whether you're buying an off-the-shelf point of sale platform, you need to have a mobile first consumer experience that can, put a customer through a single experience from end to end through that transaction. We need to stop as an industry pushing customers out to 7 different widgets and email links and things that look like spam all over the place, and really consolidate them into a single experience. And also start to leverage a lot of the automation verification services that are out there. So you got services for assets, income, and employment that can really create downstream efficiencies, but you got to put them in your customers' hands way up front in the process for them to really take full advantage of those. So CRM, customer experience, obviously, everything Margaret hit on from a back end perspective also has to be a focus. If you got, we're all going to be, continuing to go through margin compression. Your back office has to be super efficient, as automated as possible. One of the things I would recommend is a couple components that I would mention is, make sure you're looking at your doc management system. Make sure you understand what you cannot do digital today, and make sure that you're trying to solve those areas of inefficiencies. So one of the things that Finance America is doing is looking at tools that leverage AI and data extraction to pull those kind of analog mechanisms that still reside off of paper documents and put them into a digital format, so that we can start to automate those things as well. Things like automating income calculations, so that underwriters get more presented with income worksheets versus having to complete them themselves. And really trying to drive your underwriters into a model where they're clearing exceptions through the loan process versus spending their time on manual calculations, because we know our underwriters are very high paid people. So let's focus them on high skilled activities versus the monotonous things of calculating incomes and things of that nature. So those are some things, Finance America is also looking at continuing to expand our RPA practice, robotics process automation, to also help contribute to things that Margaret was talking about, to really make that back office churn, using digital workers to really lower that cost to produce a loan.
Very cool. I think that's important. And Dan, I really love how you express this sort of, well, you said, look, I'm tired of the term point of sale. And it seems so linear when we use the term point of sale. And, point of sale became such so popular, and it kind of rushed into the market, I'm going to say 7 years ago. And all of a sudden overnight, we had all of these point of sale technologies, and all of the loan operating system technologies just kind of missed that opportunity. And then there was this, hey, your consumer wants to have this experience. And, we saw some incredibly successful consumer experiences out there with other firms like Quicken, with Rocket, and the industry just was a little bit on their heels, and they had to go figure that out. So what happened, this kind of middleware industry was created, point of sale, right? And we see these outstanding firms out there like Blend and Roostify and all of these really powerful point of sale technologies. And you can see just what you're saying, that they really are driving forward, and they really are making a customer experience technology instead of just a point of sale technology. And I don't know, I haven't heard that. Dan, you may have just coined a new phrase. So we'll see what happens. But when you do look at other businesses like better.com, and you see, and hear chatter related to what Amazon's doing, and Zillow, And some of these other companies have billions of dollars to really come in here and figure out, what is it that the consumer wants. We definitely know that the consumer wants to be able to come in to something very complex, get all the answers they want, feel very, very safe, comfortable, data secure, and do as much of it on their own as they can if they're in a category where they don't have a challenge with one of their 4 C's of finance, being credit, collateral, capacity, and character and whatnot. And so I really like that. I think that that's really important. I think it's an incredibly important point, and we certainly are seeing the consumer demanding that. Businesses and other tech vendors are clued in on that. And so this sort of customer experience technology really flowing all the way through it, and then some of the other systems that come in to operate with how that data is being collected is kind of the big next step. Because let's face it, I mean, you've got the origination in the hamburger, you got the origination, which is the top bun, and then you got a lot of meaty, juicy stuff in the middle, and then the bottom bun is the delivery to the secondary market. And it's all that meaty, juicy, messy stuff that gets on our shirt that, I've yet to see a technology effectively handle that A to Z with everybody, and that's kind of the big thing. But we are seeing a lot of technology, a lot of businesses come in saying, hey, we're a tech firm that does this, and they're starting to figure that out. So I really love that. I think that that's important. Margaret, any thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things that I loved that Dan talked about was having a criteria for your MVP stack within the CRM that's really about the future. In other words, I think a lot of times we think about the customer that we're going to help today, and Dan really talked about, no, this is nurturing, this is preparing for the customer for, in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And I think having that as a distinction, that is part of basically an excellent tech stack that has the capability and the wherewithal to be able to give the necessary elements to nurture that customer of the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Margaret. That's a great point, and that Dan made. We call that a sales concierge here at Avenue. And instead of even having any discussion or training around a CRM, we've taken that completely out of the originator's hands. We call them finance managers, but we've taken that completely out of their hands. And we utilize technology, CRM technologies that are built behind our platform. And as these things are triggering, we then have call centers that take that baton and run with it and act on the transaction. But to your point, Dan, and I completely agreed with you. Once that is truly ready to go and the originator's ready to do their origination aspect of that, then boom, we line them right back up and we're off to the races. And so that sort of strategy of building the CRM behind the flow of the transaction, it's watching it. It also becomes a part of your customer for life strategy. And then you've got this kind of concierge function, or this kind of loop back function, whatever enterprises are calling it. That is certainly important, because one of the things that I think is going to be a real big part of our future, and we forget about this in our industry, when we have really fat margins, we tend to think that those are going to stay around forever. And you got a lot of room for mistakes when you have fat margins. And then all of a sudden, those margins collapse overnight. And I think that the next round is going to be really interesting in that math. And then we have to find out, or Margaret, to your point earlier, the back room's got to be hyper efficient, but you've got to be able to have your sales staff do a lot more transactions for less dollars. And so having that CRM, having that loop back, that concierge, whatever it is you call it, and building that into your technology stack, be it a mobile first sort of experience to a point of sale or customer experience technology, feeding into the rest of the manufacturing of the transaction. I really do think companies have got to go look at that really hard right now, because there's a lot of ability to have some wiggle room today. And I think that's going to become hyper important down the road really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, where you can gain a lot of efficiencies if you're giving your underwriters or your processors, a package loan that is handled as much upfront in that process as possible. It just creates so much more downstream efficiencies there.
I'm a CTO or a CEO of an organization. I'm cruising along, and I get my head up, right? I get my head up, and I'm looking out a year, 2 years, 3 years. And aside from what we're going to start sharing, we're going to learn more about what businesses are doing and all the different tech vendors. Of course, we'll have tech vendors as cameos on our show and whatnot today. And without question, everybody needs to show up to the Mortgage Innovators Conference. I think that's really important to get information. But what is some advice you guys can share with our audience related to, how do I know that I am aware of what's out there, that I am aware of what my competition's doing? We only have 20 or 30 minutes in this show, and of course we can't. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into a lot of those details. What's some advice you guys have that people can just start going out and doing their investigation to find out what is going on? What are other consumers' experiences with my competition, and what do I need to look like when I'm down the road year 2, 3 years?
I'll start, Dave. I would say that first of all, I think it's really important to make an assessment. What is market standards? We talked a little bit before, what does the borrower want? We have companies like Amazon, companies like Apple, and they're really tertiary competitors. They are setting the standard for what the customer wants in an experience. And, not to make, a shameless plug here for mortgageinnovators.com, but the bottom line is that's a very, very low cost way to be able to make an assessment what is available in the marketplace. And it is, it's a repository basically. I look at it like a library. You go in, you're interested in a topic, and you can get a lot of fabulous information. The other thing that I'll just mention, and this was in one of our earlier podcasts, and that is, I think it was the topic, I believe, was selecting vendor, the vendor process. And one of the things that Sue Woodard said was, she said that ultimately your vendor should be a partner. And I think leveraging your vendors, what is market standards out there? What are you seeing? Not naming any names, but just what from your point of view is the ultimate in this particular area. So I think that there's a lot of great ways that you as a CTO, you as the CEO can go out and really make a good grounded assessment. What is market standards? And then making an assessment, what's my gap? If that's market standards, where am I today? And then what is my strategy to close the gap?
I like that.
It's great. I couldn't agree more. I think some of the things, so evaluating technologies is becoming increasingly hard in our industry, right? I mean, there's more and more shiny widgets every day coming to market, and you try to get through, and just, you don't want to be chasing the next shiny object, right? Nobody likes to do that. We probably all have done that from time to time. But you really got to figure out if something is solving a problem that your company has first and foremost, versus just trying to chase something that looks really cool. Because there's a lot of cool stuff out there nowadays, and you really got to get through that as quickly as possible to make sure you're solving the right problems for your company. The only other things I would just add to what Margaret stated is, some of the things that have benefited me through my career is just, one, getting out in the field. It's amazing what, especially in a distributed retail channel, what those guys, and we all have them in our company, the guys that just are super adaptive to new technologies and hear something from their peers in the industry and that they see advantages of. And, you get some interesting ideas and some real life street level feedback that way. So if you have an opportunity to get out into the field, visit with your top producers, see what's working, see what they're hearing from, their competitors out there. And leverage, the only other thing I would add is leverage your industry peers. I mean, we are a tight-knit group. We all have a ton of connections on LinkedIn. I will not hesitate one bit if I'm trying to solve a problem and I know somebody else is doing a really good job about reaching out and be like, please help me solve this. So, everybody is usually willing to accomplish the same goal, which is just push our industry forward. And, I'm one that I'm always willing to share, what we're doing well and what we're not. So.
That's excellent. You both made some absolutely fantastic points there. Dan, I 100% agree with you too. The MBA also puts on great tech show. There's some great consulting firms in our industry that gather top businesses together, and they get them in a room and everybody signs an NDA and they really start sharing some stuff. I've been in a number of those and I found those to be very powerful. But to your point, Dan and Margaret, I've always been pleasantly surprised by how open our industry is. And you can phone a friend in this industry, or you're at a tech, even if it's just the main MBA, or maybe it's the CMBA conference, or it could be Mortgage Innovators, whatever. We get to know each other, and you cross each other in the hall. You can grab them by the arm. Hey, it's great to see you. What's going on? You know what? You guys are doing some cool stuff. I have a question for you. And I can't think of a time in my entire career where somebody said, I can't talk to you. You're my competitor. Usually it's like, all right, buy me a drink. Let's go hash it out. And then, of course, they're not going to give me the Colonel's secret recipe. But to your point, Dan, they can say, oh, look, everything's heading in this main direction, and you got to get on that bandwagon. And this is kind of what's going on. And so I think that's really important. The other thing I think that is great that I heard today, just as we wrap up here in summary, is getting a sense of the most advanced consumer experience in all of the different consumer categories, right? And when I say that, I'm talking about the 4 C's of finance. You've got the first-time home buyers, and then you've got the third-time home buyers that have super high credit scores and all the down payment in the world. And you got people you're just trying to talk into not paying cash anymore. The cash numbers are really high. None of us in the industry like to see cash numbers that high. And say, look, there's a great vehicle for you, and this is a great way to do it. So as we look at all these different categories and we're supplying them a customer experience, not just a POS, not just an LOS, not just a way that we're interpreting their data, or a mobile experience, but really, what is your overall experience? And these new tech firms that are throwing billions of dollars at this particular challenge are thinking that way. And so I really like that, Dan and Margaret. I think that that is an incredibly relevant thing, and that organizations need to step back. They need to start doing research and really find out what is it going to take to do that in a very productive way, in a way that delights the client, and we can weave people into it as needed, while at the same time the back room, the front room, the CRM, everything's working together in a very, very efficient way so that we can be ready for tomorrow. Awesome, that's great. Well, guys, we are out of time today. It has been such a pleasure to collaborate with you guys, as always. And again, I'd like to thank our audience for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe to the Mortgage Innovators YouTube channel or wherever you podcast. Until next time.